Hey guys, Bart from TST Industries here. In this video, we're going to show you the installation of our TST Industries Gen 2 Racing Shorty Levers on 2009 to 2014 Yamaha YZF-R1. This is a fairly simple installation with a few key things that need to be pointed out, so follow along as we do the install. So we will start this procedure with the clutch side. First thing I will do here is loosen the clutch cable by turning the adjuster until it bottoms out and then backing it up so that the gap in the adjuster meets the gap in the perch and also in the lever. Next, I will remove the 10mm nut that's just below this pivot point carriage bolt. Once that nut is out, I'm then able to remove that pivot point bolt. And now the lever will come out. Now we can take it out and also take out the cable, flip it over, and remove the cable from the old lever. And in the old lever we have a pivot bushing that we will need to reuse in our new TST setup. So I'll remove that from the lever, put the lever to the side. I'm going to grab a shop towel, and before I do any assembly, I'll just clean everything up. Anytime you have these parts apart, it's good to give them a good clean and a re-grease. I'll do that to this bushing as well as the pivot bolt. All right. Now I will grab some grease and the new TST Industries lever. And what I'll do is apply a little bit of grease to the inside of the pivot hole here in the lever, and then twist the bushing in so that the grease disperses inside there. And in addition, I'm going to put a little bit of grease on the inside of this bushing and put this pivot bolt through, twist it around, make sure I have a good distribution of grease, and wipe off the rest. All right, so now this is ready to go back in on the bike. So this will just be the reverse of the disassembly. We'll fit the pull into the lever, rotate it, turn it right side up, and then we will fit the cable into the adjuster and then slowly bring the lever to here. Now the important thing to note at this time is that there is a clutch sensor button here. If you just go gung-ho and just push this in, you might snap that. So what I recommend doing is, before you start pushing, depress the button and get it in place so that you don't run the chance of shearing it off. So now it looks like I'm in position. I'm going to drop the pivot bolt through here. And now I can fasten it up with that 10mm nut that I took off in the disassembly. So this will spin freely on you, but if you press it into its keeper, it'll bind and you could actually get that nut to bottom out. The nut needs to be nice and snug, but not to the point where it starts compressing your perch and binding on the lever. So I've gone probably a fraction of a turn too far. I'm going to back it out just a little bit and see how nice and easy that lever moves. And this is what we're looking for here. All right, now I will tighten up this clutch cable to a good starting position. I would recommend that you guys look into your rider's manual, bike manual that came with your bike to find the appropriate position that Yamaha recommends. I will leave it here. This looks good to me. This is just how I like it. I have a little bit of play, but not too much. All right, so now to the adjustment portion. 1 will be closest to the bar. 6 will be the furthest away. So depending on what your comfort zone is, how big your hands are, you could dial these in. On that, this side is good to go. We'll move on to the brake side now. So now continuing on the brake side, we will first remove the OEM lever. Do that. We will use a 10mm wrench to remove a nut from the bottom of this screw here. Once I get that loosened up, I'm just going to use a flathead screwdriver to back it out. Can remove the nut from there. That just comes off. Once you get the pivot point loosened completely, it's just bound in there. So you will need to move the lever around a little bit to get it to release. Just like that. And now this lever will come out. All right, on this side we do not need to reuse any of the bushings. I just like to clean all the components. This is the piston rod for your master cylinder. I like to give that a nice quick clean and dab a little grease on there. You don't want to overdo this because you'll have grease coming out from your lever. This looks about right there. Also going to clean the pivot. Now the pivot has this nice little groove in it where you could apply grease. So we will pack that with grease before we reassemble this system. And just make sure that the grease is full in the groove over here. And then the rest will just get squeezed down and I'll clean it off. So now we can take our TST Industries lever and first make sure that the piston rod goes into its mating point here. Then slowly work the lever into position, keeping mindful to not shear off the brake sensor button. And so that looks good here. I will now insert the pivot point. And just like on the way out, this thing will need to be manipulated around to find the on-center location. And that looks good here. I will now use a flathead screwdriver and find the threads. Once it starts threading up, it's really easy from this point forward. Bottom it out, give it a good tighten. Now just wipe off the excess grease, make sure everything's clean here. This looks good. Now the last thing that I need to do is thread on this 10mm nut and tighten it. So this is a lock nut. It is meant to go onto this pivot bolt and keep it from spinning out. The lock nut itself has a nylon element in it that prevents it from spinning off. This does not need to be overly tight. If it is, you will bind up your lever, and you don't want to do that. You want to make sure that after you've assembled this and you test it, it moves up and down its range of motion freely. All right, so now this looks good. You just go through the range of your distance options here. I prefer to keep it really far out. Some people have smaller hands or just a lot more comfortable with this lever really close to the bar. So pick whatever your comfort level is, and you could adjust it to that. One more thing I want to note is that on some of these bikes, when you go with this style of a lever, you can notice here, it has a different profile than the OEM lever. This will give you a better feel for what's going on with your brakes and your clutch. And the only implication is that it is a little bit higher profile in this section here. So at full left, full right, you might have an issue with it making contact with some of your components here, and that might cause you to have to adjust up or down. Make sure that you take care of that. All right, so it looks like this installation is complete and this bike is ready to go.